All right. So I'm taking it for granted that you guys are both still there. So with that said, let's go out to the to your desktop or wherever you create these things. I like to do it this way. You don't have to. I'm going to create a new folder that's called React-Calculator. All right. And open it up. And then I'm going to immediately do a git bash here in it. And I'm going to do my npx create React.
Mr. Scott, you're not sharing your screen.
Okay, thank you. Can you see it now?
I can, yeah.
Okay, so I came in and I created a brand new folder called React-Calculator on my desktop. All right. After creating that folder, I'm coming in and I'm doing an npx create React app dot. So it's going to create it right in this React Calculator folder. Hit enter. This will take a little bit of time. I got a thing today sent from a guy that I follow online. I'm going to look at it this weekend, but he claims there's a much better way of doing this than using npx. There's a way of doing it that'll cut down the time that it takes by about 75%. I'll look at it this weekend. If it looks good, I'll share it with you on Monday. All right, so all that is done. I'm going to do a code dot to bring this up in Visual Studio Code. And I'm immediately going to open up or view my terminal. So that's there. All right. Now, as I have been doing, and I'm going to pretty much continue to do, I'm going to remove the app test.js, the logo.svg, the report web vitals.js, and the setup test.js. All right. I'm going to remove those 4 files. Again, I'm asked if I want to. Yes, I do. Next, I'm going to go into my index.js file here, and I'm going to remove this import of the web vitals because I just got rid of it. And I'm going to go down to the bottom here and remove that as well. So again, what I just did was I removed those 4 files. Then I went up to the top and I removed the import for the report web vitals, and I removed the call to the report web vitals on the bottom. That should be all I have to do with this file. So I'm going to save and close that. All right, next I'm going to open up the app.js file. And again, we don't need the logo anymore, but we are going to say import React, comma, use state from React. So that's my new line 1, if you want to call it that. And I remove the import statement for the logo.svg file because, again, we're not going to be using that file. All right. Okay. Then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to remove everything as we have been doing between these div lines. I'm going to change that to a lowercase a because I don't like to have the file name be the same name as what we're going to refer to it in the class. You say, I don't know what you mean, you will in a second. Now, just to make sure this works, I'll throw an old hello world in there. All right, just so there's something in there. And I'm going to do a save. All right. And try to come in and see if I can start this thing up. So npm start. Not found, cannot so it is still in there. I thought I removed it. So we'll look. It is in app.js line 4, it says. app.js line 4. It's now I knew I have my app.css. File, save all. Let me go in and try to kill this again. All right. Just try to make sure I get the hello world that comes up without an error. There it is. Okay, so I'm fine. All right. So we've got all of that stuff done. All right. The next thing I'm going to do, and we haven't done really this exactly before, is I'm going to go into app.css. I'm going to change this to a lowercase a, and I'm going to remove, there's not much in here, but when you look, this is for the logo, which we don't have anymore. And this is media stuff because this is what's making the logo spin around. So we're not doing that anymore. And we don't have that same header in there anymore. So all this stuff can be removed. All right. And I'm just going to change this to get it started. So I'll put in here a display flex. All right. Just so I've got a start in there. But that's all I'm going to keep in there for right now in my app.css file. So file save. All right. And then I'm going to go into my app.js, and this is where the magic is going to happen, so to speak. All right. The first thing we might as well do is come in here and clean this thing up. All right. So I usually do it like this because you usually see it like this. And that is come in here like I'm showing you. Put that paren in there and then put an ending paren right here. That's usually the way it looks in here, okay? But I'm going to come in and start to actually create the interface. All right. Now, the bad thing is I may have to go back to the actual working file because I have this in two different places and I don't know which one I'm going to be showing you right now. So if you say, I don't know what you mean, if it looks funky when we run it, don't worry about it. We'll get it fixed. All right. So the first thing I did was come in here. And if you haven't noticed this already, you typically put in a lot of divs. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do this. I'm going to say div last name equal, and you can call it whatever you want, but it's a wrapper div. So I called it wrapper. All right. And then inside of there, I'm going to make another div where I'm going to have my display that's going to be on the top. And this display is going to be where I actually show the result of the calculation. All right. So I put another div in here. Class name equals display. Now, when we put this next stuff in here, I'm always at a loss for when we do this. Should I be coming up here and writing all the code first and then write the UI, or should I write the UI first and then put in the code? The reason I'm telling you this is there is a chance that when we put this in, if you've got it running here, that it might start saying that there's errors. And that's because we're going to be referring to stuff we haven't written yet. And if that happens, don't let it throw you. All right. So we're going to put our answer here. This is where our answer is going to display. All right. So like I said, we don't have it yet, but don't worry about that. So it's going to say for our answer, okay, what we want to display in here is either going to be a span. And again, if this doesn't make sense, just bear with me for a bit, where we're going to put in the answer. All right. Or we're going to have nothing. And if you say, I don't understand at all what that means, you'll have to bear with me for a little bit. Whoops, not there. In the end, what's going to happen is when we print this out in just a bit, All right, this is going to be more like an Android calculator if you've never seen one of those, where when we do this, you're going to see the answer in two different places. If you say, I don't know what you mean, again, you're going to see it in a couple minutes. All right, so the answer, like I said right there, is either going to display the answer inside of a span, that's the question mark, or with a colon, it'll mean that we haven't done any calculations yet. So it's not going to show anything. That's all that means. All right. Okay. Then after that, okay, we're going to put in a couple blank spaces just because it'll look a little bit nicer. So non-breaking space, non-breaking space. All right, let me put in word wrap. All right. And then next, we're going to say this is going to be the result of our calculation, or it's going to be 0. What the heck does that even mean? All right. That means that if we've done a calculation, so if we put in 4 plus 5, all right, okay, that it should be showing that that answer in there. But if we haven't put anything in there yet, all right, so if we're just starting, it should show 0. And that 0 will be replaced as soon as we start typing some stuff in. So that's the first thing we want to display. So this will be at the top of our screen. All right. Then after that, in fact, that's the end of, well, no, that'll be fine. We're going to put in another div here, and it's going to have a class name that's going to be equal to operators. Oops. Jeez Louise, Jeff, come on. Class name equals operators. Okay. And in here is where we're going to have the plus sign, we're going to have the minus sign, we're going to have the multiply sign, and we're going to have the divide sign. All right, so I'm going to put in one of these and then I'm going to copy it 3 times. We haven't written update calc yet, so don't worry about that. All right, let me grab this. Put it in there 4 times, and we're going to have a plus sign, a minus sign, a multiply sign, and a divide sign. All right, those, as it says right there, those are going to be our operators. All right, we're also going to have a delete button. And I kind of thought about this. I don't know if I wanted to make this a delete button, which is basically like hitting the backspace key, like doing that. All right, or if I wanted to make it a clear button where we removed everything. When you're doing yours, it's up to you. You can do it either way. It really doesn't matter. All right, I'm going to put in one more in here. I'm going to put in one more operator, and that'll be that delete. And when we click that, it's going to end up calling a routine we have not written yet that's called delete char for delete a character. All right. And we'll put in DEL there. Okay. Did I need that blank space there? No, I'm just separating the actual, it's not really it's not going to be on a different line, but I'm separating the actual operators from that delete button. Okay. All right. So again, like I said, we're building the UI here. So the next thing I wanted to put in here were my digits. All right. So I put in another div with a class name that's equal to digits. And just like I did before, I'm going to put in one of these and then I'm going to copy it down a bunch of times. All right, in fact, let me just grab one of these. It's not going to be, it's going to be different, but I can grab it anyway. All right, so button on click, update calc. This is just going to be the number 1. All right, and I'm going to put this in there actually 12 times. So, all right. Now, I thought about this later. We probably could have even gone in and written some kind of a function that would have built these things for us. But it's fine the way it is. It works. Let's put it that way. So 3, 4, 5, 6. So these are going to be those different buttons on the calculator. All right, the number buttons. 7, 8, 9, 0. We're also going to have here a period, a dot for a decimal point. All right, and we're going to have our button that'll actually, well, there'll be one more here. Let me, for right now, I'm just going to put in here, just calculate. It's going to be our equal sign. So again, this is when we want to actually, for lack of better words, perform an operation. Okay, so you may or may not, but I separated mine out a little bit so these are different, so to speak. All right, what's wrong here? Button on click. We don't need all that stuff. We just need your equal calculate. There we go. All right, so let me change all these. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. This will be our period. All right. That should be, as far as I know, that should be everything we need as far as the interface goes. Okay. Now, my guess is, since there's no CSS in here whatsoever, that if this does resonate right now without showing an error, and I don't know if it will or not, but let me go into view terminal again. And I'm killing anything that might be running on port 3000 and npm start. My guess is it's not showing anything because it's referencing some code we haven't written yet. All right. Okay, then let's write that other code. So up at the top of this routine that we're in the app.js. All right, so let's go back up to the top here. All right, and before the return statement is where we want to put this stuff. Before the return statement. All right. So what do we need to do? Well, we already did our import of useState. So now that we've done that, we can go in and we can basically create our state variables. So const calc set calc, and that will be equal to useState, and that's when we first start. So we'll put nothing in there whatsoever. And then we need our answer. And I could have called it result or something else. I just called it answer. And again, that's that's going to be equal to useState. And again, just set it equal to the empty string. All right, so that's the first two things. You should by now, I'm not saying that you totally understand what all that means, but it should at least be enough where it somewhat makes sense to you. We're going to have a variable in here that's going to basically be holding our value as we're working on it, whatever we're currently inputting, and we're going to have an answer. And that's what we're setting in here right now. All right, that's what those two things are. In addition, we've got 4 different operations that we can work on: a plus, a minus, a multiply, and a divide. And we also have a period. Those are handled differently than our digits when you think about it. All right. So all that stuff is going to be handled differently. So I made a thing, an array just called ops. And it's got the plus sign. It's got the minus sign. It's got the multiply sign. And it's got the divide sign. Now, I suppose if we wanted to be, and a period, I suppose if we wanted to be really tricky in here, you probably could have gone in and looked up the HTML entity for the old-fashioned divide thing that's got a vertical line and a dot above it and a dot below it. Probably could have done that too and used that. I didn't, but you probably could if you really wanted to. All right. Then what we want to do is we want to update our calculation. Now, that said, there's a few things we don't want to allow to have happen, such as we only want to let you put in one period. Okay, 0 or 1, depending on what you're doing. Okay, such as we don't want you to be able to press the plus sign twice. You know, you should be able to say 27 plus 33. That doesn't make a lot of sense. All right. You also shouldn't be allowed to end with one of these operators. Okay. So that those shouldn't be allowed to, for lack of better words, to be on the end. So that's what we're going to check right now. And if we have one of those conditions, we're just going to return. If we don't have one of those conditions, we're actually going to go in and do the calculation. All right, or update our calculation. So const update calc, and that's equal to, it's going to have a value passed in. It's what the current value is, whatever it is we're currently working with. All right, but like I said, first, oops, boy, Jeff, I'm going to put a comment in here that just says check for, and I'll call them error conditions. So the things I just mentioned to you. So if, set a parenthesis here, ops dot includes value and calc equal nothing. So in other words, we haven't put anything in yet. Okay. Or ops dot includes value and ops dot includes calc slice -1. Again, we want to make sure if there's any garbage, so to speak, on the end, that we're accounting for that. So let's see, we've got 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I think I need one more here. Need one more yet. You start playing with a ton of parentheses like this. That's why I'm getting this thing here where it says expression expected. So let's see. This goes with this. These two go together. Those two go together. This should go with the one on the end here. These two go together. There's 1, 2, 3 here and 1, 2, 3 there. That should be right, but for some reason it's not showing it as being correct. And I'm going to have a problem as long as I got this. So let's see. If you see an error in my code, please say something. I played with this before. This happened with me once before, and I ended up putting in just a boatload of parens to make it go away. Well, if I have to, I'll go look at it during the break. All right. So that's not perfect right now, is what I'm saying. But we do need the, oops, we do. I guess we had the curly there. So if this, all right. So if that's the case, it's an error condition. So all we want to do here is return. That's it. So if one of those error conditions comes in there, we want to return. If we get down to here, what we're trying to do is valid. All right. So I'm going to do a set calc, and I'm going to say calc plus value. Okay. So we're basically building an expression in here. All right. Like I said, something is still screwed up in here with the parens. I'll go find out what it is and copy it in just a second, so we've got the right thing. So if not ops dot includes value. Now this is the part where this will work. This is doing the calculation in here, okay? But there are a lot of books that you can read. There are a lot of articles that you can read that will tell you that when you are working, why the heck is that? That should just say set result. It's set answer. There we go. All right. There are a lot of books and stuff that you can read that'll say, never ever use that operator right there. In fact, there was an article I read years ago. I probably could Google it. It's probably still out there. That was called Eval is Evil. All right. Because what eval does is you're basically giving up control of whatever you're doing to the software itself. And bad things can potentially happen when you use eval. I tried doing it in other ways, but I kept coming back to this because this was the only way I could get it to work. All right. So that's the end of this. And like I said, we'll fix this in just a moment. All right. We've got another routine in here called calculate. Which we'll call set calc. And again, we'll do an eval. All right. Of that value dot to string. All right. A nice, short, crisp little function. Another one. And what this is going to do is it's going to delete the previous character. So I called it delete char. Takes in no parameters, our old arrow function. And if there's nothing in there, there's nothing to delete. If it equals nothing, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to delete. So just return. All right. Otherwise, if you get down to here, it's going to remove the last character that you put in. That's all. And it'll set calc to value. All right. Now, give me literally about 10 seconds here. I'm going to go back to my working copy. I'm going to just grab all of that. To my knowledge, at least this morning, that worked. So that now works. I know it looks a little funky, but again, we're checking for the possible, we want to do an update on the calculation, and we're not allowing bad characters in. So again, if we've already used the period, don't allow it again. If we've put a plus sign in, don't let it be followed by another plus sign or a minus sign or a multiply sign or a divide sign. And that's what we're saying in here. And if you find one of those kinds of conditions, don't allow it to happen. Okay. All right. Now, I don't know if I fixed everything or if there's still some errors in here, so let's take a quick look. So I'm going to do a save all here. I'm going to go back down to here. Now it says it compiled with one warning, and notice eval can be harmful. So it's warning me about that. All right, so this is what you got right now. But let's look at it. So let's see, 23 times 4 equals 92. So it works. All right, if I hit delete, notice I remove the stuff that's there and it goes back to a 0. It still keeps the old number here. You can fix that if you want to. If I hit just a plus sign, doesn't do anything. So when I just hit these signs, etc., if I put in 23 and I type in times, notice it won't take it again. I can remove that. But if I take times 3 equals, it gives me 69. I can go and remove these, so delete, I can do that, and it keeps the old number here. Again, you can remove that if you want to. All right. And what else do we have? So if I put in 34, plus 3, I get 37, minus 4 is 33, times 6 is 198, divided by 9 is 22. All right, if I do a 22 and I divide that by 3, notice I get kind of an ugly answer there, 7.3. So you could work on that too if you wanted to and use it to fixed. All right. Now, from what I have shown you in here, you get a butt ugly interface. All right, but it works. In order to get mine to work, with where I had the working copy that I showed you at the beginning of class, I went in and wrote a boatload of CSS. I want you to do that on your own. All right. I want you to be in charge of doing the CSS on your own because I want this to look like your calculator. All right. So my question to you is there anything that's in here that I went through it too fast, you need it repeated, or you need to show something or whatever, or you have all the code? I had absolutely no idea how long this would take. Because I didn't know if we had problems setting it up.
Oh, Mr. Scott.
Go ahead.
After your delete char, can I see your const value? I didn't. That's one thing I need. Okay, yeah, right there. Thanks.
This is all part of the same routine right here. All right. So what I am envisioning you doing, each one of you in the class, what I'm envisioning you doing is coming in here and prettying this up like you'd guess. All right. But, for instance, you can on the top, you can just have all this stuff on the top. You can remove this if you don't want it. Or you can make it smaller if you'd rather do that, change the font size. That's what I did using the CSS. I had this was set to about 1.5 rem, and that was set to about 0.5 rem. So it was about a third of the size. All right. I'd envisioned you doing something like having at least 2 or 3 different rows full of buttons. So in other words, I've gotten you to this point right here. All right. I think you all get that. I think that makes sense to you. All right. But what I am envisioning you doing then is taking it and making it look something more like this. So you can see the difference between this and that. That's what you've got right now. That's what I'd like you to do. All right. But when you go out, and even if you go out to Google Images and you type in simple calculator, all right, some of them are not all that simple. All right, we don't have the percent and some of this other stuff on there. All right, ours is more like this. So you could make yours look just like this if that's what you wanted. All right, I put the symbols all on the top. You could choose instead to make it look just like this. Black background, white buttons with black. You can make it any color you want. You can use any font you want. You can put gaps between these. All right, you can set it up as a grid if you want to do that. So again, there's a lot of different ways that this can conceivably be done. All right. Now, what I just said, does that make sense to both of you? Can I just get a yes or a no?
Yes, makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. So again, then last thing, because like I said, this was the other stuff, just so you know, I found these things online. I don't want to sit and read to you. This is about 20 some pages long, React tutorial from scratch, and it goes through everything that's in here. This is the table of contents, basically rather, to the document. Now it's got here like writing a to-dos app. It's not a full app. They just show you how to get it started. I think that we should try to do the to-do app in React, but we got to get it working first without React. All right. But it talks about the virtual DOM. It talks more about JSX. All right. It talks about the different component types, etc. It talks about state. So these are some things that you may want to take a look at. All right. In addition, when you look down here where it's got the React developer tools, there are things that you can add, just so you know. If I come back into here, so I go back into my Visual Studio Code here, and I go over, let's close this. Try to close that. Close this, but let's bring up the extensions. You'll notice that if I come in here and I type in React, there's a few things that you can put in. Now, I would not suggest doing anything with React Native, because React Native are more for when you are writing, that's more for when you're writing mobile applications. But the simple React, all right, dead simple React snippets you will actually use. You may want to install that. You don't have to, but I'm saying you might want to. And there's other stuff, ES7, React Redux type of stuff. All right. So there's a bunch, look at this. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff in here. I'm not saying that you have to install any of it, but you might want to. All right. The other thing, and we're not going to look at this today, but we are going to probably next week. If I go back out here and I bring up, let's see. Chrome itself has got some React add-ons. All right. And there's some stuff that you can use inside of Chrome. Typically, the one you'd want would be this, the React Developer Tools. All right. And there's a thing in here that shows it. There's a video out there someplace too that runs through it. And it can help when you're doing testing. The stuff that we've been doing so far, I'm not going to say that anything we've done thus far has been simple, but with the stuff that we've been doing in here thus far, it hasn't been anything where we got to do a whole boatload of testing. All right. We're going to change that a little bit next week because, like I said, we're going to go out to the internet. We're going to grab, on 2 different occasions, we're going to grab some information from 2 different websites. And to do that, we'll need to grab APIs and have API keys, etc. That's where this stuff can become more important. So again, last thing, and I'll leave you alone then. So there's that one. And I also found this. See, I subscribe to this medium.com. I get articles every day on all sorts of different stuff. All right. And I mean, just so you see it as an example, if I go out here, and I didn't do this, but let's see, medium.com, I wonder, maybe I would have been better off coming here. Let's see, do they have a React calculator? Read a tip calculator with React, a percentage calculator with React. All right, a simple, I could have looked at that one. I have no idea if it's any good or not. All right, looks like there's enough code, but not really that much when you look at it. Okay, but like I said, they've got a lot of really good stuff as well. But that's where I got this other article from. They put a lot of these things in there, interview questions. Okay, and I actually think they're pretty good because what they're saying is if you're going to interview for a React programming position, this is the kind of stuff you're going to be asked. So again, they explain again what JSX is. All right, what the virtual DOM is, what props are. We haven't gotten into create refs yet. All right, what state is. All right, binding, which again, we haven't gotten into yet, but we will. What use state is, etc. Okay, so this is all stuff that you may want to take a look at. All right, but for your next assignment then, we did this, we started it yesterday or Monday, I guess, and finished it yesterday, or Tuesday, I guess. We started it and finished it yesterday. We did the JavaScript BMI calculator. We did a React BMI calculator. I want you to have both of those. If you decide, you are going to be, for lack of better words, required that at the end of this semester, when you update your portfolio, when you do your update, you are going to have to put in a minimum of 3 different projects from this class. I don't care what you put in. My hope is one of those 3 that you put in will be the e-commerce site that we're going to start on next week. As far as the other 2, and you can put in more than 3 if you want. That's totally up to you. But again, on the chance that you apply for a job and you've got links to your GitHub repos or whatever in here, the stuff should work. All right. That's why I say they should be functional. But I want it to look like yours. In other words, if two of you were to apply for the same job and you both have the same BMI calculator, I'd like it if they looked radically different from one another. All right. Because that way, it wouldn't look as they wouldn't say, oh, I just saw this one. All right. Okay. And again, I did put in that original assignment in there as another attachment. So second, then I still want you to go through and grab that tic-tac-toe tutorial. I decided not to spend a lot of time going through the reactjs.org website with you because I thought I'd end up doing a lot of reading, and I don't think anybody really likes that. So on this one, again, as it says, 15 points for doing the JavaScript one, 20 points for doing the React one, 15 for the CSS you put on the two. On this, creating this React app, that's 50% with a tic-tac-toe. As I said, I can't tell if you did it yourselves, all right, or if you just copied it from the book. I will take a look at yours, and it's like if you did copy it from the book, I'm not sure what I'll do. You could at least go into the CSS files, change the color and change the font type and size, etc. You could at least do that. Finally, with what we just finished working on right now, that's the React full calculator, if you want to call it that. Again, it should be functional, meaning it should work, and it should be a reflection of you, so it should have your own CSS in it. All right, so when you come in on Monday, be prepared to do some kind of a weather app if we get it done early. Be prepared to do some kind of a movie app. If we don't get it all done, or we just get it done, but it takes the whole period, we'll do the movie app here. If either one of these takes more time than I imagine, we'll run into Wednesday. But at a minimum, Thursday is going to be a lab period. All right, and Thursday is a lab because, again, no class Friday. All right, so hopefully that made a little bit of sense to you. I'm probably going to have to redo this because when my internet flaked out just a couple minutes ago, I probably lost whatever I put in on a tape right now, but at least you two have heard it. All right, so that's all that I had for today. Sorry if it seems like I didn't keep you very long, but you've got some stuff that you can work on right now, and I will talk to you on Monday. Have a good weekend. Find out. Yes.